That, yeah, pee and poop. I also heard that they. Oh,
Oh my
I
god.
heard nothing.
And we are live.
Shay.
Welcome to a Chic Critique.
My bad. 'Cause listen, I got
When
a
did you hit the button? How much of that did they hear the question?
what question.
Nothing.
Never.
Nah, you was about 2 seconds past what you stated, and then Miss Taken started talking. Then she was like, "Oh, her eyes got big." I was, "Oh, well."
I was about to say something. I'll type it and tell y'all what I just saw. Like this was years ago though.
Okay, you guys, it's gonna be a short night. Okay, short show, just getting it in there. Let you guys go about your business. So let's introduce our panelists for tonight. We have Marky Mark, VAP, Mistaken, Enos, HD. My name is Shan Monet, and this is a Chic Critique. So, AP, is this your last night with us, or is it another night?
Uh, Officially, because it's going to be sporadic, this will be my. This is my unofficial, official last night.
Teardrops keep running down my face. It's like,
Why?
um,
Well, thanks to Inaz, some things are going very, very well in my professional life,
she gave
and I have to really monitor how I move for over the next 2 or 3 months. So to ensure that I don't say anything ridiculous, I am going to take a few steps back.
You don't ever say nothing ridiculous though.
Yes,
Bro, do
sir.
you know how bad I already censor myself?
Yeah, so I get what he's saying, especially when you're moving into a new, you start talking and you're like, oop, you make a oopsie, like, and you wake up the next morning, you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. Like, nobody feels like going through that, because people don't want to hear the truth. And when you tell them the truth, they get all mad and then they splur. It's a mess up out here. I get
And
you.
I could Yeah, and I could be moving to DC, so I have to
Well, if you
really
move to DC, I'll definitely gladly take the trip up there. It's only 3.5 hours.
for sure. Shit, I'll come down, bro. It's
Well,
all
I'll be
good.
gone when you get here. I'm leaving Sunday, so.
Oh yeah, I'm not landing until Monday.
All right, let's get this show started. Is there an incentive to being a good woman? Do y'all think it's an incentive nowadays? Do you think it's an incentive to being a good woman? Just
Yes.
oh, go ahead, Marky Mark. Why do you think that?
I mean, how else you go get a family, a man, and people to try and defend you, respect you, and look out for you?
Does being a good woman get you a good man? I mean, get you a man though?
It increases your chance.
Mm.
You don't
I'd
think so?
argue, do most women really want a man? From what
I
we
think
hear in this
I
space,
think they do.
they do. I can tell
I
you,
don't believe them when they
guarantee
say
most women want a man. And it's so funny because I had this conversation and let everybody else go. I had a conversation, and the conversation, and it goes back to what we mentioned before about what is a good man. People just think because, oh, he's a great person, you should marry him. There's so much more that goes into women choosing mates than just he's a nice guy. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. So, and we've talked about this on the show before, but I just wanted to. But go ahead, Enos. But I guarantee most women want a mate.
Yeah, I think absolutely most women want a man. But I think there is a lot of incentive to be a good woman. It's just the payoff for it is a long-term goal and not a short-term goal. And because a lot of people can't see past short-term goals, it just doesn't seem like there's incentive. You just have to be more forward thinking. Play chess, not checkers.
Well, my thing is I wonder about the intention of being a good woman. Like, not necessarily the incentive. Is the purpose of you being a good woman just because you're trying to attract a man, or you just want to be a good person? Like for me, I just think that if you're a good person, then I think that would make you a good man or a good woman. I think that's the initial No, I was going to say, I think that's the initial step. And then whoever you attract or whoever you're in a relationship with, then I think it goes a little deeper in terms of making adjustments to accommodate the person that you're with, if that makes sense. I just think the goal needs to be a good person. And then once you get with the person that you're with, then you'll end up doing extra things because of the person that you're with.
And so when I mention good woman and good men, I think that they go hand in hand. I think that it goes because it's a lot of great women as far as personality is concerned, right? But then you start thinking how useful they are, how value do they have value? And I think that that's the same thing as it relates to men. When women look at men and men look at women, can she cook? Does she clean? All these things that adds value, right? It's not just about being a good person, because you'd be a good person to be my friend. But if you come with some things that may be useful, then that makes you maybe a good mate. But the same goes true for women seeking men. It's not just about you being a nice guy and you're ready to marry. Like, do you have what it takes to be a husband? Are you a great leader? What is your thoughts on this, that, and it's so much more than just being a good person, if that makes sense.
Do you think it's hard to find good men and women nowadays?
That's what I'm saying. I think it's hard to find good people, depending on where. I guess. Well, let me take that back. Depending on where you're at, and who you choose to surround yourself around.
I
But
think most people. Oh, I'm sorry.
go ahead. No. Go
No, I
ahead.
was gonna say I think most people think that they're good people.
Mhm.
I think that that's something that society or other people will have to tell you. I don't think you can self-proclaim it though. But I think most people proclaim it and then operate from that stance. But the world, I think, has to tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I say that there is incentive for women to be good. Just like there's incentive for women to be bad. I think that sometimes people, but especially women, they have the idea of what a good man is, but not understand with some of the good of a man, there's also some issues with a man. Like how he's designed is a little bit different than you. And I don't think a lot of women really understand that even some of the good men that you believe are leaders, protectors, and providers, they have some things that you don't think about that's also comes with a good man that some women would consider those the bad. Like most of the
Example.
time you only want the great things about men. You don't want the bad things about men. Like one thing that might come with a man that you like, that he's a leader and that he's a provider, he might be like, nah, that's not what we doing. Hey, as much as you think that you have a better answer, ma'am, we're not doing this. And you'd be like, oh, well, sometimes you just seem so stubborn and da da da. Well, is he responsible for the relationship? Yes. Does he take care of you? Is he responsible for you and the well-being of the family? Yes. Okay. So there might be times where you feel like he should go a different way or he should do a different thing, but he's not going to do that because sometimes the people that are responsible for the company or for whatever, they're going to do things that's contrary to what you think that they should be doing because you're not responsible. He responsible.
It was something that you just said, HD. Do you think it's more incentive for women to be bad women than good women?
I don't think it's more incentive. I think what it is that you don't really understand what is good and what the incentives actually are. Because if you show behavior that most people would consider bad behavior and you get attention for that, you think that that's a good incentive.
It's
No.
positive reinforcement. It's
Yes,
you're
you're
being
getting positive. But the thing is, it's not positive
Mhm.
because you're getting used to what you're trying to get. So you're trying to get this person using this thing that's not good, right? And then you think you're getting this thing that's happening to you and you're considering it good. But like you said, or one of y'all said, the long-term gain ain't good if this is how you attracted this person. So though you had received something for this negative thing that you did, like, I think it's smart to realize that oftentimes good men, good women, or just people in general, we don't really understand what's really good for us because we have our own perspective of what we think is good. Because there might be some things that's a really hard lesson for you to learn that might be good for you, but because you don't feel like it's good, you're gonna be like, yeah, we're not doing that. You're going the opposite direction.
Do you think that possibly toxicity just attracts toxicity? So, for
No.
example, for example, just because you're a leader doesn't mean you're not toxic in some form, right? Because if you're dating her and she's toxic, you pulled her in. You are dating a toxic person, so that's just as much on you as it is on that person. You understand what I'm saying? So it's something about you that keeps giving into this toxicity. So that makes you toxic yourself. And so what has happened is a lot of these guys who people deem as great men as because they look great on paper, they are toxic. And so they bring in toxicity, and you think that, oh, that's what he wants. So let me bring on toxic behavior. And you see more and more women wanting to be in his company. And so they become that toxic person. Do you understand? So for example, when we look at our celebrities, that's how we can go by right now. Not that we do that in real life. I'm just saying. Those women aren't what I would deem, and I'm not, more actors usually have good women, but let's just say athletes. Those women aren't what I would deem great women. They don't look like what I would look and choose the wife that I would choose for my son, basically. And so when people see that, they like, oh, that's what I have to do. That's what I have to be to get this type of guy, right? But even though he's this person, he's toxic himself.
I think a good example of that would be like Blueface, the rapper Blueface. The relationship him and Krishan got spawned a whole. Well, he got in a relationship with her off of his show, right? I never seen it, but I think it's called Bad Girls Club or something like that, where they walk around and they literally are incentivizing people to behave that way, and it's
And he showed
spawning
this,
eras of people that are acting like that.
and
Yeah,
just
but
imagine.
I don't agree that toxic, just because you're toxic, it attracts toxic. That's like
No,
saying,
but it keeps it in his company longer, because if you're not toxic, you're probably quicker to get rid of toxicity in your company. And so what I say to you is this: men have this tendency to want to change women, right? So she's toxic. She comes in your company. You want her to, but she is who she is. So if you were a little less toxic, you would just take that with what it is and understand that this is not your energy. This is not the company you should be keeping. But because you got a little bit that's attracted to toxicity and this need to want to change her or whatever, you keep it going.
so let me ask you a question. Do you think ignorance is toxic?
If you determine to be ignorant, if it's willful, yeah.
Well, then
Yeah,
that's not
that's what I
ignorance.
was gonna
That's
say. It
stupidity.
can be. Ignorance can be toxic.
No, but if you're saying
I
that you
don't
have a
agree at
willingness
all.
to be ignorant, that means that you're willingly choosing to be stupid. Because to choose to be ignorant, that means you know full well. To truly be ignorant means you have no clue. Just like I don't know what I don't know, so that's me truly being ignorant. But if you make a willing decision, it's like, hey, I would rather just not know, and I want to feign ignorance, or I just want to continue to just not do more or learn more, that's a very different conversation than you just actually being ignorant.
So you
I
don't
agree
think
with that.
ignorance can breed toxicity? Because I'm just thinking about just on low key, like if let's say you're young and you're dating, of course you're going to be ignorant to some things in life, right? Because you just haven't had enough life experience. I think that ignorance sometimes is what lead people into bad relationships going forward, because there's a level of ignorance. So that ignorance can breed toxicity because you end up with a person that's toxic, and now that's in you, and then you end up going into a relationship doing that same thing. Now, I'm not saying it's intentional, but it is toxic nonetheless.
But I mean, ignorance works both ways. Like if you're ignorant of, the bad things of relationships, right? And you find a good person by the grace of God, and you go on through life, just like when you talk about how, hey, why don't more people talk about the positives of marriage, right? Why don't more people talk about that? if I only heard about the positives of marriage, right, and I'm ignorant to the bad things in the marriage, then I can walk into this relationship only thinking about the positives more so than the negatives, and I'm more inclined to want to find the positives instead of the negatives. But whether you are ignorant of the positives or ignorant of the negatives, I don't think that necessarily means that you're toxic or that ignorance is toxic. I just think ignorance is just ignorance.
So I hear what you're saying. I'm just having a hard time accepting it only because we live in the age of information where the entire knowledge that has been accumulated over the entirety of humanity is at our fingertips, right? And so, with that, ignorance is always a choice at this point because you have so much access to so much information to things that are outside of your immediate vicinity. Ignorance is actually a choice because the moment that you're even exposed to the slightest chance of a possibility of something, you can go look it up, right? But then to the point of like the toxicity, whether you realize that that toxicity exists out of ignorance, out of life experiences, or whatever it is, or whether you don't acknowledge that exists, it's still toxic. There are toxic chemicals that we can't see that we have to buy little machines that let us know exist around us, right? Because we don't have that perception that it's there, right? Sorry, Shannon, about the carbon monoxide detector, right? Like those types of tools are there to show us when toxicity exists when we're not able to identify it on our own. It doesn't mean that it's not there. And I think that happens in interpersonal relationships as well, romantic and otherwise, that if you are ignorant, you leave yourself susceptible to toxicity, and in fact, it can become a breeding ground for toxicity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. My counter is that a tool is only as good as a person who knows how to use a tool. There's some people that have a little bit more skill with understanding how to use the tool of the internet a little bit better than others. And that also, because of this internet that we have, right? That people that are like, as we were talking earlier, there's some people that are smarter that control this internet and that have the abilities to create a narrative and idea. And if you're not smart enough at how to properly craft the tool that you have in front of you, you may not be able to understand or even get to the information that you're talking about as far as like the toxic behavior that you have because of the people who are a lot smarter than you, who made this tool, who know how to use this tool to keep you from being able to do some of the things that you claim they should be able to do.
That is a fact, Chavo.
I agree, Chavo. Hey, what about internal moral compasses? Do you think those exist, HD? Because if we
Oh, I definitely think they most certainly exist, but most of the time people will have the answer in themselves and choose to go in the opposite direction.
then that's not ignorance. That's willfully choosing.
Yeah, but I'm talking about when they clearly have no idea. They didn't hear no internal monologue. They ain't hear nothing. They literally was just like they're like a deer in headlights. They crossing the street. They don't see this car 10 miles down the street that's about to come at 100 miles per hour. They don't see that because they just walking on the street, living their best life.
But I, I can understand an initial. So if you afforded a mistake, then I wouldn't say, that. So what I'm talking about is you've seen the results of it, and you're still maintaining this behavior. Like if you go someplace and you act a fool, and you see the results of it, right? And then you go back and continue to act the fool, even though nobody taught you to act a different way. You're still behaving ignorantly by choice. So, like using that example, it's still a choice after like I give you the initial one where you make the mistake, the learning curve. After that point, everything is intentional, is what I'm saying.
I agree.
Okay.
So I I actually agree with HD on his point. So can we all agree that most people believe that they're good people, correct? Can we agree to that? if we agree to that and someone displays toxic behavior, but that person believes that they're a good person, how do they know that they're displaying toxic behavior if they believe that they are a good person? That's the ignorance he's talking about. You don't know what you don't know. It was never your fault. It's somebody else's fault. You were in the right.
But kind of using Inaz's example is that even when, let's say, you yourself may not be aware of the toxic chemicals, right? There are things around you that could alert that it's toxic. So in that situation, I believe that even if you think you're a good person, the people who you are around or don't want to be around you is kind of like that thing that be beeping in Shan's house all the time, right? So I
Is
think
it
that
still beeping?
no.
We don't know now, but it probably is.
So I think that has a tendency to happen. You always end up in some mess. Like because of the fact that you're toxic, you're going to be attracting toxic things to you. And so then you'll continually have the results that, Marcus was talking about. And then at that point, I think that it does. So you may not necessarily know exactly where it's coming from, but you know it's a problem. And you probably need to figure out how to fix it because the alarm bells are going off.
So, using those same examples from both you and Denise, how do you know if you don't believe that your behavior is toxic? How do you identify that toxic behavior or that you need a tool, i.e., a friend, a companion, or your results to show you that you are, in fact, toxic? Like you don't know to go look for the tool. You think that you are good. And most people surround themselves with people of like mind, as we just stated. You will surround yourself with toxic people who will gaslight you, and not intentionally, but oh girl, you good. Oh dude, you everything was straight. Like it wasn't your fault. So how do you know that your behavior is in fact toxic?
The
Um,
results.
yes. Like if you're not getting the results that you are looking to achieve, there is toxicity in there. That doesn't mean that you are completely toxic. There's just a level of toxicity that's getting in the way of things, right? You can be a good person and have toxic traits or have toxic habits. Like, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be proactive. Because sometimes when we think about toxic, we think about we think about like people doing things to other people. Sometimes just allowing people to do things to you is the toxic behavior. But because that's portrayed as a good person, we don't identify it as toxic immediately, right? And so toxic can sometimes just be passive.
I think I understand a little bit. So it seems like what you're saying, just because you don't know something is toxic, doesn't make it toxic. Like if you're in a lead house with lead paint in your house, right? You don't understand that you are in a toxic house, right? You disturb that lead paint, it's toxic. It's poisonous to you, right? I understand that. I think we can agree. We can agree on that. I think I think the last thing that you said, like at the beginning, that um what did you say? How did you say it? You said something that is based upon your results. I don't agree with that. And the only reason why I don't agree with that, because there's a lot of women out here saying that are good women that are waiting patiently and trying to do things the right way, that are looking at the other women, getting the results that they're trying to get, and they're doing things in this toxic way. And these people that we're seeing in these toxic relationships, they're getting the things, some of the things that some of the good women want, and that the results that they're looking for, even though they're doing things and they're doing the non-toxic things. So I think just to simply say your results speaks for themselves, you know, I think that that's not fully going to work for the toxic conversation.
Part of this, what we have to also take into consideration, most people aren't self-aware enough. They they literally don't see anything wrong with their behavior, no matter what results they get. It's a lot of people think it's someone else's fault. It is never their fault. Walk naked in the mall, get arrested. Why ain't people minding their own business? Ma'am, what? What? What are we talking about? But people are really not self-aware. The people we're talking about, especially that live in this toxicity, that love it, are typically not self-aware enough to identify that they're in a toxic situation, and they are the ones that are helping create this environment. So I just think that's something that we have to keep in mind when we talk about the ignorance piece of this toxicity.
So to the part about the results. So your results not having the positive results. So if a good woman doesn't get a man, that's not an indication in itself that she would be a bad woman because the results don't garner her the man. I would say a better indication would be if you're constantly in toxic relationships. That would be the result of that. If that make more sense to you, HD. Smooth operator, you there?
I agree with that. You're right. If you keep making the same decisions over and over again, then it has something to do with you. So what will happen if there are more people who are toxic to date than people who are good people?
There's a solution for that.
Shut up, Marcus. Oh my gosh. Not everybody who wants to do, not every good man wants to be in a poly relationship. Not every good man wants to be in a poly relationship. And not every poly man is a good mate.
Right, but you set yourself up for that question because you pretty much asked what happens when there's a market imbalance. I mean, somebody hoards the resource or the resource spoils.
Right,
That's just how that works.
That's your solution for everything, Marcus. Like, what happens when you break your leg? There's a solution for that.
It is because you can't go to work, so you need more people to help work. All right.
Listen, the problem is at this very moment, the law does now allow it. Okay, so we got to go with what we can deal with right now. So with that being said, that's not a real solution at this point until that law is changed. Okay.
We wanted freedom at one point too because slavery didn't allow us to be free. I'm just saying, just because the law exists, don't mean that.
Don't talk
we
about
should
it.
Aspire.
Well, I agree. The law doesn't exist yet, but a lot of times the laws always lag behind the behavior. And so even though there's no law, there are people that are already in committed polygamous relationships. The law may catch up at some point. But I mean, I actually agree with Marcus. If somebody is interested in that lifestyle, that is one solution.
But the only issue with that, and I'm not talking, and I'm pretty sure Marcus is well versed in this area, so he may move around a little different. The only problem with that is there again, it's just a committed relationship. It is not marriage. Mm-hmm. There's no legality to it. Marriage is only marriage. So
yeah, most people are in relationships right now anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the problem. So people are in. So the problem is not people not finding people. People are in relationships. It's just not moving to marriage. Mm. A lot of women want marriage because there's no security in just being. There is, if you take his word for he's a great guy. Yes, we know there are a few. But what I'm saying to you is there is no true security in just being in a committed relationship without the legal, the forms, whether it be overseas, however you get it done. To prove that, right?
What type of security are you talking about? Financial security?
Just security, period.
The legal protections you get because you are married.
I just wanted to be clear because there is protection, but I just wanted to make sure you.
The legal protection, and maybe you should
legal protection. Okay.
Have an episode about you know, the protection that comes with the, you know, but all I can go about is what I see, because this is all new to me, right? There's no protection of wanting to leave. You know, people who are not in secure relationships leave faster, right? It's just, you're just out taking a chance. I mean, you know. So we're gonna move on. So anybody have anything else to sum this up? And we're gonna go to the next subject.
Yeah. So, because you asked a really good question about what happens when there's more people that aren't considered good people versus people that are. I think people need to stop being convinced to give people a chance who don't fit the criteria of a good person. Like, stop letting the internet convince you should give everybody a chance. And this goes for men and women alike. I think the more that you can stay away from people who are toxic, the moment that you see it and just like exit stage left, the more opportunity you give yourself to filter through to somebody who's actually a good person.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So, before I go into the video, okay, let me just go into the video because I'm trying to make sure the time is right, and we can just go into that. What in the hell is going on?
Y'all hear that beeping?
That's my computer. That's why I said, what is the hell?
Them beeps follow you around. If it ain't your carbon monoxide detector, your computer beeping at you. Walk down the street, the men beeping at you.
No, I had clicked on the wrong link and it just had these little pop-ups that came up. So sorry.
Pop-ups, you say?
Why do men, when they have a good woman at home, like, why do they still feel the need to mess with multiple women?
Most men cheat just based on the availability of the situation, if we're going to be real. A lot of times it's not even necessarily what she's doing, is that these options are available to me and I'm interested in something different. Me and you might have been together 9, 10 years or whatever the case may be, and you didn't show me every possible move you can. And then I run across this woman who's willing to just throw it at me any different type of way, and just curiosity alone is going to push most men to go out there and say, let me just at least see what it is.
I want to stay on what Trill said for a second, though, because, you know, we hear about these divorce rates, right? 80% of women are choosing to divorce and different things like that. But maybe a part of it is there's no real incentive other than your morals, right? There's no real incentive to being a good woman. We sat here and we listened to somebody say, oh, if you stay at home, you cook.
What?
Hold on. You stay at home, you cook, you clean, you do this, you know, you do what you think a good woman is supposed to do. And you said after 9 or 10 years, it just may be curiosity. And it's like, could you imagine, looking on the other side of things, can you imagine being at home, doing what you got to do, raising your family, raising your kids, and your man degrade your relationship, throw away everything that you built over? I mean, it might feel different. Like,
okay, so before we get into that, this is the thing. We all know that women are the ones who usually pull the trigger on marriage, right? Divorce, okay? Now, I watched a show and there was some divorce attorneys on there, and they were saying usually if there's infidelity, you know, women will wait a little bit and then they'll pull the trigger, especially if it's multiple times, okay? Whereas men may sit and just take whatever the problem is in the relationship. But my question to you is, are you really just taking it? What is the incentive? So what it looks like is when men, and I could be wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong. When men are in a relationship, they have an out. So they cheat, that's their out. They don't leave the relationship. They just do other things to offset what's going on in the relationship. But women don't have that out. Okay? So the incentive to be the good woman, and we know, okay, society says men are going to cheat, you know, men cheat, But then what is the incentive of being this great woman who cooks, cleans, take care of the kids, does all these fancy things, if the inevitable is he may cheat, right? Go ahead, Iman.
So I hear this all the time, but like, your character is your character. And if you allow somebody else's behavior to influence your character, you never really had character in the first place. So whether that man cheats or not, has no bearing on whether you are a good woman or not. And you choosing not to be a good woman out of fear for that of that man cheating gets in your own way of attaining a man who may not. Right? By being a woman who isn't considered a good woman, do you really have the option to attain a man who's a good man? So like, I hear the logic, I understand. It's a big fear that a lot of women have. It's a huge betrayal of trust for a man to cheat. Yes, polygamy is an answer, but some people do cheat in polygamy. A cheater will always cheat. Somebody who is dishonest, that is their character. But you altering your own character based on somebody else's behavior is really not a real solution.
Well, let me change that around, okay? Because your character, you're right. If you're a nice person, you're a nice person. You're a good person, you're a good person. But what I'm saying is all the perks, right? Because you not cooking doesn't mean you're not a good person. You not hustling, like doing all these things, like putting in all this extra work doesn't mean you're not a good person. It just means that you don't want to give the effort anymore, right? So I want to make sure when I say good, that's what I'm talking about. What's the incentive
about
of
that, the perks that come along with being with a good man, saying that you're willing to take care of him and do all of those extras that okay,
right? That's what I meant about that.
Mm-hmm.
And there again, that's why when you say good, people have to start clarifying, because the internet, y'all don't want to be good men. No, please clarify what good means. Good can mean he's just a nice guy, he's got great character, but there's so many other things under good that it takes to run a household, right? So I wanted to bring that in. So I'll go ahead.
Can y'all give us like the top 5 things is what you consider a good man?
Do you think that is going to be different for?
It's individualized.
That's why I asked for y'all to each do it.
For me, I would say honesty. I would definitely say, for me, a need that I have is the emotional, being able to provide emotional fulfillment. Really, those are my top 2. I think with that, well, no.
3 more.
I would say to being able to financially, and I wouldn't even say provide, because I think that's kind of the thing that we got into, is that when we say financially provide, that means that we expect the man to cover everything. And to be honest, if I had that, it would be great, just like anybody else would appreciate that, but that wouldn't be a necessarily an expectation that would be a deal breaker. Like, as long as he is really contributing, like hustling and helping, taking care of, I don't mind putting in my part as well in that. So that is not necessarily my like top 3, but definitely he has to be a provider, but not just in a financial sense. I'll say having good character and open to, like, that he likes to learn. I would say those are my top 5, because I need somebody that can teach me something as well.
Same.
So I'll go. So a good man has great boundaries for himself and the people around him. A good man has strong and confident leadership in himself and the way that he. A good man is emotionally regulated. So not only does he set the tone for himself and his own emotions, but he tempers the people around him. A good man is open to communication. That doesn't mean he has to be the strongest communicator, but is willing to receive information and exchange information. A good man is also somebody who has purpose. Regardless of how somebody else sees it, he's centered in his purpose and understands that purpose can change depending on where you are in your journey. So those are my top 5.
Y'all got dope answers.
Shan?
I was thinking the same thing, Marcus.
Yeah.
Everybody said, I mean, that's pretty much, I think these are general answers. I think every woman would take both of these for the most part, right? Everything that they've said.
So
I disagree.
yeah, because when people online list they list, it don't really sound like that. The one thing that I
You
think
have to. I think the problem is, and again, we talk about this all the time. We'll probably talk about it again next week. You have to pick people in your tribe. Y'all stop looking at this one ratchet chick who like, yo, you gotta be the, and she's not even. Why are you even looking at her?
But
If you
the
don't take
thing
advice
is,
from her or nothing else, why are you listening to her about? Like, what?
well, because these things overlap. Like that's the reason why, like, when guys see women do certain things, this may be a good woman, but she's doing something similar than the other women that we think are not so good, and y'all both doing the exact same thing. So though you may have a lot of good traits and a good character and all this other stuff, when you do something that looks similar to the woman that we think don't have those good traits, it sometimes muddies the water. So even though you're providing these very good explanations, right? And then another woman comes behind and gives her 5, and they don't sound nothing like her or you, right? That continues to muddy the water when we try to have these conversations.
Well, it muddies the water when you try to get information from people who you don't even have access to. You understand? Ask the people around you, people that you come in contact with on a daily basis that you have access to, the people who are your real circle of people that you can actually go on a date with. Try talking to those people instead of going to the internet to get advice on what women think when anybody can put a camera in front of them and just start talking. We don't even know if she's living the life she's talking about. Like, come on.
Can I? So I'm glad you said that, because the truth of the matter is I actually don't give a damn what any of you think a good man is. A better question for me is, what do you wish to obtain from a marriage? What do women wish to obtain from a marriage? What is a woman trying to get out of being married? Because in order to address what was said in that video, I think the better question is, what is it that women want?
Well, I think what Inaz just said, what I just said, is what women want. It may be different for, each woman, I would say, because I know that having somebody to be able to provide emotional security for me would be a big thing. But somebody else may not, that's not something that they would necessarily need. That might not be in their top 5. So I think, to kind of speak to Shan's point, everything that Inan said for what she needed, I happen to agree. But just for conversation's sake, those things that she listed may not necessarily be in my top 5. So the person that she chooses is going to look different than a person that I choose. And I think that's what Shan was saying, is that a lot of times we'll have this idea of saying what it is that we need as a woman or as a man, but then end up with somebody that doesn't do that. So if I said I need emotional security, but then I have somebody who is not in touch with their emotions or don't know how to regulate their emotions or anything like that, then that wouldn't be a good match for me. But person may be a good match for, let's say, Shan, because she may not need, a person that is, emotionally, that gives her emotional security.
You know what's so funny about, and this is the thing what men don't understand, especially when it comes to the cheating component, right? Because I've never been big on cheating, but the problem is this: when we talk about provision, right? And when you go out and you feel like it's okay to cheat, what you're doing is you're inviting drama into your household, right? Because you can cheat with the wrong person. Now she's slashing your wife tires, your kids in danger, this bitch crazy because she love you, she emotional roller coaster. And so that now you're putting your family in a situation all because you cheated. It's never just you cheated. It's always other things going on behind the cheat. Yeah, you had sex with her, but then y'all start developing, you're talking to her more often. It's so much that goes along with that. Outside of poly, we're not talking about that part. We're talking about cheating. And so that also hinders the provision, right? The protection of the family. All that makes a difference. Women, we don't want to have BV because the vaginas don't like each other. Like, come on. It's so much more than just a cheat. It's not as innocent and easy as it sounds. There's still, especially when it comes with a woman. Not that you would be a man, but it's so much because we know women are emotional creatures, and as soon as you break that woman's heart, we're vulnerable.
Random, but did you see that Kendra G episode yesterday where that dude was like 6'5" in Atlanta, made $260K, and he said he was married to a woman and then he married a man and he was looking for either one? I know that's random. It just popped in my head when you said that.
Not that if you like men, that's you. But I'm talking to the men who like women.
Yeah, for the men that like men, this ain't your part of the show.
So,
Shan, do you find that a lot of my bad? I'm being rude in the mud. My bad. I'm not near my phone. I'm on Bluetooth. But peace to the panel, y'all. What's going on, family?
Hi.
Yo.
What's good, Rilla? Nice to share the stage with you, brother.
Nah, I want to sit at the grown folk table today, man. I want to sit up at the grown folk table. See what y'all talking about over here, man. You know what I'm saying? So Shan, do you think men are becoming more comfortable with telling women what their expectations are or what they want out of relationships up front? You think that's becoming more and more common? In other words, men are saying either they're not available or that they're seeing other people and you're going to be part of the rotation.
I think that the conversation is starting to be had. Absolutely. Right. But I do think that there's a great majority that just doesn't have the conversation at all. And they just keep it until the conversation comes up and then they'll be honest. So they wait on it as long as they can wait, and then they throw it in there, right? And usually that's at that time she's already locked in, she already like you and all that kind of stuff, So I do think that the conversation is being had. It's just not being had at the right moment for some.
Could you break that down by age group? Like at what age group do you think are men still not telling women what they want and stringing women along? Do you think it's the younger, early 30s?
And you got some grown folks that acting a damn fool out here in these streets too now. Don't get it twisted.
Yeah, but you said majority. Yeah.
So
I want to stick with the majority because what I know on King Talk, if y'all been following that for me, I know Marcus, a couple of episodes that I've been back, we've been adamant about telling men to just be upfront and honest, right? So if you're not ready for a relationship or whatever, and you're not going to commit to that woman, there's no need to cheat. You actually look like the sucker cheating, right? Because, we're supposed to be men of integrity, men of character, men of our word. So it's almost like, who are you as another human being that I would have to lie to you, right? I should be able to tell you the truth. But I think I'm curious to know you all's response on that, because what I'm seeing with these shorties is that they savages. They don't care. these Z's,
right?
Them Z's, they don't care. They gonna tell you up front. Like I'm seeing her, and him. Like you was just, who said that? Marcus. They gonna say I'm seeing her, and her, or her and him, or however they fluid with it nowadays, right? But and there's some of these old. Oh, go ahead. My bad.
No, go ahead. Finish your statement because I wanted to go back.
I was just gonna say some of these older cats. I would imagine, like, I'll be 50 this year, man. I don't see a lot of people I see a lot of people my age making more compromises at this point than they are out here still running around playing game. I'm not saying some of them aren't. I'm saying majority of people my age are either married or in long-term relationships because they've been married, got divorced, didn't work out, and they just settling for not settling. They're negotiating long-term relationships at this point. But I don't find very many people in my age group that are still out here running script on females.
I agree.
Okay,
go ahead.
I was gonna say the funny thing about the truth is the things that you're afraid of losing by the truth, it might make you closer to that person. because it naturally seems like you tell somebody something and when they hear they're gonna run away from you, but you never know. You'll get what you could possibly get what you want out of life, and you give that person a chance to choose. Like it's a win-win. The freedom in being truthful and getting over that hump, or just being true to who you are. It's amazing. If you're not on the other side of that, I strongly suggest just give it a try. Just give it a try. Tell somebody the truth about whatever.
I'm so glad Shan Batteries finally told the truth to that.
I'm in DC, so that's the reason why you're here. But it will be back on the regular schedule next week when you will the battery will make its way back into your households. I do apologize. She could not be here with us today. But let me just say this. The problem is this with this new generation. They're growing up on TikTok, YouTube, and they see the same thing we just talked about with old girl when I think it was HG who was saying, when you see a woman and she's saying this, and this, right? So I think that women, when they go on dates, they think that that's what men want. I don't know why they think this way, but they do. They think that, oh, I can it's a turn on, oh, to be toxic or to be this out there woman. Because I can tell you this, most women do not feel good doing that. They just don't. It's not natural to be like that. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's natural for women to be that way. I think somewhere along the line it became cool, or it became just a thing to do. Like you feel like you can get attention if you say this or you move this way. Does that make sense?
Shan, we know where all this stuff came from. We've been socialized and watching culture transform for a minute, right? With no guardrails.
Yeah.
Think about it. The nature of hip hop is to be rebellious, right? And so we rebelled against standard, we rebelled against morality, we rebelled against decency, right? And you keep pushing the line, and the further you push the line and make certain things acceptable, it becomes normalized. So now it's normalized that my cootie cat pink and my booty hole brown and all that other stuff, right? It's nothing else. I don't know that there's anything else that can shock us. And so these shorties have no reverence for nothing. But like I said on another panel I was on, Generation X gotta own this, man. We gotta hold this L. I don't know how many Generation X's are up here, but we dropped the ball, man. These babies are happening on our watch. And what's crazy is I watched the show, a panel full of Generation Z, right? He did three separate panels. He did the ladies first, then he did the young men, and then he brought them both together. Do you know those Generation Z young people were arguing like how we see on these panels full of adults? And they're repeating the exact same talking point. So it's not that at some point things became cool, right? It happened and we watched it happen. We ushered some of this stuff in. Because what do we normally say, Shan? As long as they not hurting nobody, they could get away with that. Or they could it's okay until it's not okay and it's right in your doorstep. We're seeing what the last 30 years has been a failed experiment in individualism. We're failing as a community and as a people because everybody want to be in their own silos, in their own four walls, and only want to protect what's for them. And so what they see going on next door, they won't speak to it because that's none of my business. That's not my child, but that child is your child. You see what I'm saying? So we seen it unfold. We're complaining about it in the culture now, in the music now, in the way that it's reflected in the visuals and the media now, right? But again, this happened on our watch. We saw it come in, Shane. We saw it.
That's correct. I agree. Anybody else?
So I saw that panel too.
Know.
I'm sorry, AB.
No, you got it, Marcus. I didn't see the panel. Go ahead. Mine was.
Yeah, I saw that panel too, and that's why that's why we have to push back and not try and just fit in with what our peers on our age group is saying, because they're like, the more we allow that narrative to run, these kids pick it up as if it's their reality. And a lot of that is just you taking one extreme side of an argument and making it out of anger, hurt, or betrayal, or from whatever reason that you resonating with that emotion. But these kids are implementing it as fact. and they fought with each other and was talking about the 60s and how black women ain't on our side and how feminism is the antichrist of the relationships, and they want 250,000, and the girl was saying, no, I don't feel that way, and it was bad. It literally sounded like Rilla said, they took the talking points, packaged them up, and turned it into a little human. And it had those talking points battle each other like the little rock'em sock'em robots. And that's gonna keep happening the more we push this narrative. I mean, if you're gonna push a narrative, make it one that we could see them pretending to love each other instead of pretending to fight each other. It shit don't make no sense. I understand you don't get no clicks and views doing that shit, but some things got to be better than, more important than clicks and views. Like, honestly, they do.
AP, go ahead, and I'll go after you.
No, I kind of disagree with Rilla, but I'm a cusp Gen Z, 79 in October of 79, right? But I would say, no, what? Never mind. I don't, because all of the
Nah, you X. You almost millennial, but you X.
y'all did drop the fucking ball.
No, you X too. If you was 79, man, don't do that. Don't run away.
October of 79, brother. That's the cusp.
Yeah, you 79.
Listen to me. No, you're not understanding. You're not understanding.
Shay, you see you trying to run away from us?
No,
you in here too. Get your ass in here.
Listen to me. So for me, my kids weren't. I'm not raising my kids in. I wasn't an OG to this fucked up generation. I was running with them, bro. I was running with them, listening to y'all cats that were 4 or 5 years older than me, saying, "Go ahead and smash these chicks, f these chicks, f everybody else." We're the ones trying to turn the shit around for y'all. We're the ones sitting in the house doing what we can, moving women across states that you may or may not be married to make sure that you can see your kids. That's what we're doing. You raggedy motherfuckers couldn't. Y'all tried to screw us up, bruh.
I think really what happened.
That was the bombers. You got you.
I'm giving you a hard time.
Hey, Shan, you got to pull up the what's the name.
Look, I was gonna say that
you got to put. I know. I owe you. You got to pull up that chart.
My girlfriend and I were literally talking about this today because she was talking about like the age group of her kids. Her youngest is about to turn 16. I think each generation is going to change, and we look at the generation before us and we can see the difference. You know what I'm saying? I think what ended up happening in the generation that we grew up in, even though it was the crack era, I still think they still had some remnants of good upbringing, because I remember crackheads who used to still send their kids to church, even though they didn't go. Those kids were still in church so they can be somewhere safe and have some kind of supervision, right? And I think how we were saying as we were growing up, the talk was they were letting the television raise their children. They would sit the kids in front of the TV and let the TV raise them. But at that time, we still had television that had some positive images on it, right? And I think now the difference is that people are allowing social media to raise their children without any, like what you were saying, without any, restraints in it. So they're being exposed to way more things than what we were even exposed to. They have immediate access to things that we were never exposed to. And then they have access to people that, even though we may have had ratchet people, it wasn't like it was an overexposure to it the way that it is now. So I think when you put those things together, that is what has happened. But if you were a good parent, just like my parents didn't allow the television to raise us, they monitored what we watched on television. You know what I'm saying? The TV went off at a certain time. Even if we tried to sneak, we had to sneak. So it couldn't happen often. Whereas now, I don't think that parents are trying to put, rails on how their kids access social media. So they're being overexposed to that kind of stuff.
So,
And
so this is the thing, you guys. Media has always influenced people since the 20s. It was a tool to get the word out. If you look back in the Roaring 20s, it was just the style. Everything was pushed by through the media, right? Radio, all of those things. So this is nothing new. What has happened is there is an agenda at play. Okay, they know how persuasive the media is. They are pushing that music for a reason. That the music that they're pushing is for a reason. Everything, people, this is strategy, sweeties. This is not just happening. It's all strategic. And as soon as we figure that out, we will be, so much better as people.
Well, Shannon, this is why I say, oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
So I think that that's important to say. We can sit here and be like, oh, because we let our kids do this, we let our kids do that. They've always done it. It ain't just our kids. Their kids watch TV too, but it's just that the representation of us looks a certain kind of way. And so our kids are looking at us and they're like, they're mimicking what they see about us, and it's not in our benefit. You understand what I'm saying? But go ahead.
I think it's more important to be involved now more than ever. And I've said this once on the show before. So when the song WAP came out, it was ridiculously popular, right? And I was going to use that as an opportunity to have a real conversation with my daughter, because we have to be involved. We have to try to stay ahead of this foolishness that comes out and that they have access to. When I tried to have this conversation and I started the song up, my daughter said, is that, what's her name? I forget her name. And she said the artist name. And I was like, yeah. She's like, I don't listen to that. It doesn't feed my soul. That ain't what you play. We have to be involved. We get to steer our kids in the direction that is positive and that is righteous. We can't let social media raise our kids. We can't allow television to raise our kids. We have to get in the middle of that. That is our job as responsible parents and adults. So I just wanted to say that, it's on us.
And real fast.
That's why I said the buck. So at some point, it's not when I say Generation X drop the ball, I'm Generation X, right? So when we talk about in this space leadership, I believe, like John Maxwell preaches, that everything rises and falls on leadership. So the buck has to stop somewhere. I can't look back at the booming generation and keep blaming them, although I could, right? Millennials, Generation Y, millennials blame Generation X. And the Z's are blaming Generation X because their parents are either millennials or X, so on and so forth, right? So that's part of it, right? If the buck has to stop somewhere, and somebody just gotta own it, full stop, and say, okay, the generation curse stops here, right? Now, most of us on this panel, especially if we have kids, we don't let TV, like my kid. So I'm on the record, 3 boys, 3 girls, right? 3 boys, 3 girls. Okay. I don't say this to brag. I'm just saying I'm regular, everyday Joe Blow. I'm a salaried employee. I show up regardless of whether I work 1 hour, 100 hours. I get paid the same amount every 2 weeks. Okay. So now my kids, I got a daughter that's married in the Air Force. She's a linguist. She speaks Mandarin and.
Oh, it went out.
Asking him to do.
Okay,
go ahead. I'm going out.
No, you went out. You're back.
Yeah, I'm just running the resume down because I don't want it to turn into like we're not doing what we need to do by our kids, because I'll say it like this: my kids are good. Like, part of that started with the selection. I give all the accolades to their moms, because their moms did an amazing job with them, right? Especially when I had to just work and I couldn't be there for every single thing, right? So I'm straight. The fight that I'm fighting is because I believe in community, right? Marcus in the city. Marcus, I went to the school on the best side of 103rd, on east side of 103rd, right? And in that community, I was just at the LSC meeting yesterday, and we were talking about how they were happy to see me, right? I was the only male other than the teacher that was there who didn't look like us, right? I was the only male representative there, in particular from the community, right? Everybody else was female. So that's one part, right? The other part of it was there were maybe two parents there and there are 6 seats available. So there's this apathy that runs in the community where the parents aren't involved. And it's not like for my generation where we were latchkey kids because the parents were working and they left you home because they were out working. No, these parents are just being honest. First of all, these parents are probably maybe 15 years older than their kids, 10 years older than their kids in some instances, straight up. Let's keep it a bean. And the apathy is so intense and so thick. They just don't care. They're literally at home, just chilling, doing their TikToks and watching. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the real battle that we're having. I think most of us are doing well, and what's permeating. This is the other thing, Shan, to what you were saying about media has always control. Yeah, it's that's been since birth of a nation. D.W. Griffith, right? There's always been an agenda at play. Here's the difference, though. We have the opportunity to control that narrative more than we think, and we don't leverage that in our best interest. You will never see negative media about small hats, and you definitely won't see it about Asians, right? You won't, because they control that narrative. They will not let anything come out disparaging, degrading, or denigrating them. Whereas we put, once there's money attached to it, we say, oh, that's art. That's the culture. Now, I know art and culture. I'm a snob. What Marcus got behind him, that's art. That's culture. You know what I'm saying? What AP got posted on his wall with Tupac, Cube. To me, that's art. If you read Rose that grew from concrete, that's culture. You understand what I'm saying? What's being pumped out now is being disguised as art, and it's damaging our community and our kids. And as adults, as parents, as people who are concerned, we got to get active at the local level and attack this thing. It's not even, don't even worry about the national. Get hyper at the local level to attack this thing. I'm going on mute.
And real fast to piggyback on that, because we'll have more of this discussion next week, because y'all know this is a short night right here. But when I went to the Holocaust,
I got to come back for it, Shan. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to come back for more of this. This is great dialogue.
Next week, this is what we're talking about. The classism is the new discrimination amongst us, right? So listen to this. The thing about so I was at a Holocaust museum today, right? You guys didn't hear that my backstory. So I'm in DC. I went to a Holocaust museum, and so one of the things that Hitler did was he put people in order of the different nationalities and who was superior, and he listed. It was like then he put every single race in that order, right? And so he put blacks at the bottom, but then he put Jews under blacks for him, right? And so, and now those were the people who were able to reproduce. If you were at the bottom, he didn't want you to reproduce. It was so much that went along with it, right? And so people, even outside of Hitler, feel like we are the inferior ones, right? So they keep us in this box of being inferior. And they do that by pushing this agenda that we keep falling for. Like Chicago said, we control it, but we fall for it every time. Because you think it's popping to listen to that music that's calling you a bitch in a hole. You like, and you don't even understand what it's doing to you. When you talk about money and all killing and whatever the music talk about these days, I don't listen to it. But all of that crap is an agenda to keep you in that place, keep you in your place. And we sit here in our place playing our role. We got to be better than that. Go ahead, Enos.
So I love what you said and the dialogue that you and Rilla had. The only pushback that I really have is that we don't have control over it, right? There's a whole machine behind the art scene. There's a whole machine behind the music scene. There's a whole machine behind the marketing scene that we don't have control over. So let me put it this way, because yes, you can choose what you consume, right? But here's how they really get you, is that the radio stations that play in the supermarket, the corner store, the bodegas around you, you're subconsciously picking this music up regardless. So by the time you get to the club and it's playing it, it's already embedded in itself, and somehow you figured out the lyrics from listening to it unintentionally, right? The subliminal messages with advertising, like those things don't They don't pop out of thin air. Even if you're somebody who's a mindful consumer, you're still subjugated to this stuff because we don't actually have control over our image. There's a lot of money to be made over our image being what it is, right? What we have control over is how we internalize it, not the way that we consume it.
So this is my thing. I would not disagree with anything you have to say, but my problem is
I
we
would.
I do too.
we still feed into it. You don't have to like it. So that's one extra point for it. We all start, we put this call something whack and it goes out, right? So you don't have to feed into it. Even if they keep pushing it and you keep pushing against the narrative and you move a certain way, eventually the money is just not going to be there. It's one thing for a person to talk a bit bad about you and you support them talking bad about you, and somebody talking bad about you and you don't support it. Right now, we're in full support of it, and that's the problem. That's a big problem.
And something to what Ina said, I agree. You don't have control once you leave outside of your bubble, right? Outside of your home. And I think that is where it all starts. Like, I know in our home, the way we were raised, we weren't allowed to listen to certain music. Now, don't get me wrong, as a kid, we still snuck. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think that's what kids do. They're going to push the limit. They're going to find, go over boundaries and stuff like that. So we did sneak, but there was a level of the fact that we had to sneak because we knew that we were going outside of the boundaries of what our parents established in the home. So even though we heard the music, it wasn't at the level of just having complete freedom and access to it. So that helped curtail some of the behavior. It helped curtail as many hours of that pumping into our minds or what have you, because we weren't allowed to listen to it. I think the difference now is that there is complete access to this kind of stuff without having any level of understanding when you're that young listening to it, because your parents are listening to it. So you, like how AP was saying, like his daughter, and I was shocked that my son knew some old school songs. And he was like, oh, y'all used to play this all the time. So sometimes the environment that we create also impacts our kids. So if we're listening to that music and then we're saying, you don't need to be listening to that, like that's not creating a conducive environment for them. And then I think the other part of it is I'm seeing more and more now the expectation of whose responsibility and role is to raise their kids is falling on people outside of the parents. I was telling Shan, was it yesterday that I went to a Super Bowl party and we were just talking, and I literally heard an adult say, it is the school's responsibility to educate my kid. And I was like, well, yeah, there's a part of it. Yeah, there's a part, but there's a triangle. You're responsible, the kid is responsible, and the teacher is. And if anyone is out of that whack, it'll mess it up. And so she was like, no, teachers get paid legally. My child doesn't have to go to school till they're 6 legally. So at that point, you're getting paid. It is your job to educate them. And I hate when people say that parents are the kids' first educators. I looked at her and like my jaw just dropped. Like, are you serious? Is this like really? So you're going to wait for 6 years before you educate your child? Like, it doesn't make sense. So I think as the generation goes, we're trying to make other people responsible for the things that as parents we should be responsible for. So we'll say, well, it's the music industries. They need to stop playing that kind of stuff. So then my kids won't have access to it. But you as the parent have the most control over your kids. So it's your responsibility to make sure that your kid doesn't access it. So I think that's part of the problem too.
Wait, the lady said she doesn't have to educate her child until 6 years old. So she's not doing anything and she's going to wait to send them. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I
She
don't
shouldn't
think
have had
she's not
kids.
going to do anything.
Yeah.
I think her point was what she was trying to make is that she was trying to point out that schools blame parents for the way the kids
They
are.
should, yes.
And
They
what I was
1000%
trying to
should.
say, well, it is you. You are the kid's first teacher. So if you're not teaching your child, you can't then turn on the school and say, well, it's your fault. They didn't learn. You didn't teach them. I was like, we teach them something totally different. I should never have to go to school and have to correct your kid about behavior. I'm paid to teach them ABCs and stuff like that, not to parent them. That's your job.
But
So
Miss
it was like,
Taken, the sad part is by her saying she's not responsible for teaching her kid, she is teaching her kid. And the sad part is she doesn't know that she's teaching her kid. But look, I'm gonna drop down real quick because we
we all about to
I'm
drop
on
down because I'm on vacation.
we closed on our house today, so I'm on cloud 9 right now.
Congratulations, brother.
I'm moving in the middle of the night. They pushed our closing date back, so I wasn't prepared. So I'm out here just we can't wait. So I'm just moving stuff, right? I did want to push back on Sade forehead real quick, but I'll say that for next week. Because I would give, especially people in the audience, I would give them this homework assignment, right? Go find out who are some of the biggest executives in the music business and who green lights projects. Go look up names like Keenan Johnson, Ray Daniels. Look up who produces the Super Bowl halftime show, right? Go look up who Kevin Lee is and Quality Control. If you look up those names, you'll begin to see who's research who signed Lil Uzi Vert, okay? And you'll find out the same people that sign these acts, a lot of them listen to Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, Poor Righteous Teachers, so they know better, right? So we do have control. It's only when we raise our voices as a collective and say, "Hey, man, that's not cool," or we not going for that. We are our currency. Our culture is the currency that we have. Keeping 100, that's the currency that we have in this country, right? And we validate and put the cool stamp on so much trash because we don't consume the culture like that. We don't, in terms of monetizing it, right? We know the biggest consumers of hip hop culture are people who don't look like us. Those are the ones that fund it and monetize it. Okay, so when we begin to validate and redirect what's cool, like a Diggable Planets, you know what I'm saying, like a Public Enemy, you bring more balance back to me. Or if you bring it to today, Rhapsody, you know what I'm saying, the Kendrick Lamar's, the J. Cole's, you know, the regular suspects or the usual suspects. We have more control than what we think. And that's why I say we got to get hyper local about this. But I do appreciate y'all letting me sit at the adult table with y'all this week. If y'all have me, I'll most certainly be back to send a couple of super chats since I can spend money again now that this closing is done. Hey, yo, Marcus, they was watching every penny, G. They was watching every penny.
You better save it for that furniture.
Hey, Miss Taken, they wouldn't let me spend a dime. They was like, hey, what's going on with that account? What's moving? What you doing around there?
Make sure you come back next week.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Yeah, peace, y'all.
So we're gonna do these.
What part of the city you moving to?
I'm gonna hit you on the back, Marcus.
Yeah, I gotta get out of here, y'all. Sorry. Okay, so let's do these super chats real fast. Chicago Rilla, who's gonna read them?
Chicago Rilla gifted 1 Lapeef Network membership. Salute, Rilla. Appreciate you coming up. Chicago Rilla with the 5. For Shan Fire Alarm Battery Fund. Chicago Rilla again with the 5 for Inaz Shea Cocoa Butter Fund. That forehead is glistening, beloved.
Thank you, Chicago. He's still look. I keep telling y'all, it's the service. It's not the battery. It's the stupid machine. You know. Anyway, thanks you guys for being here. I know it was a short night, but Shantae is on vacation. I wish I could be here with y'all all night, but I just cannot. But thank you guys for being here for a short time. We will be here next week when I am back home, so you can hear the beeping of my carbon monoxide detector, because obviously it's a part of the panel now. So everybody have a great night. AP, you coming back next week? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be back to continue this. I feel like this was great dialogue, and there's so much more to unpack. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. We kind of went into next week's subject a little bit today, but it's all good. We can continue it tomorrow. I mean, well, next week, next Friday. All right, you guys. Love you much. Be safe out there. Have fun. See you later.